Imagine this, an international airport buzzing with travelers, families reuniting, and planes boarding. Then, smack! A father's hand strikes his own son across the face. Not for breaking the law. Not for disrespect. But for one thing, refusing to drag his spoiled sister's designer luggage. Everyone turned to stare, gasping. My cheek burned, but my pride burned hotter. What my family didn't know was that within hours, I'd turn their humiliation into their downfall. Because while they fought for baggage, I walked into first class without them. Airports have a strange energy. People are either rushing with excitement or drowning in stress. For me, it was supposed to be the start of a long-awaited trip. Finally a break after months of grinding at work. I had saved up for this vacation, booked my own ticket, and even upgraded my seat as a quiet reward to myself. But of course, my family found a way to twist it into chaos. It started at the curbside drop-off. My sister Layla strutted up in her heels, dragging 4 massive suitcases that looked like they were stuffed with bricks of gold. She didn't even greet me. Instead, she shoved the handles into my hands. "You're the guy, carry them," she said, snapping her fingers like I was her personal porter. I stared at her. "Layla, I've got my own bags. I'm not hauling all your stuff across half the airport." That's when Dad stepped in. His face already tight with annoyance. "Don't argue with your sister. She's a lady. Be a man for once." The word stung. Be a man, for once? As if my entire life had been a disappointment to him. I clenched my jaw, grabbed my own backpack, and walked toward the check-in counter. Layla's high-pitched voice echoed behind me. "Dad. He's refusing. He's being selfish." The next moment, I felt a firm hand grab my shoulder. I turned and before I could react, smack! The sound echoed through the terminal like a gunshot. My father had slapped me. In public. At the airport. In front of hundreds of strangers. Gasps spread through the line. A mother covered her child's ears. A man pulled out his phone, recording instantly. I stood frozen, my cheek blazing red. My pride screamed louder than the pain. "You will carry her bags," Dad hissed, his eyes wild with fury, "or you don't come with us." Something inside me broke at that moment. All my life, I had been the punching bag. Both figuratively and now, literally. I had bent over backwards to keep peace in the family. But this? This was the final straw. I straightened my back, looked him dead in the eyes and said quietly, "Then maybe I won't." The crowd murmured. My father's face twisted in disbelief. Layla gasped, clutching her pearls like she was watching a soap opera. "Don't be dramatic," Mom snapped, adjusting her scarf, as if her biggest concern was appearances. "Just carry the bags. People are staring." But people weren't just staring. They were whispering, pointing, recording. My humiliation was spreading like wildfire. I felt the sting of my father's hand still on my cheek, but deeper than that was the fire in my chest. They thought I would bow my head. They thought I would obey like always. Instead, I tightened my grip on my boarding pass and said one line that silenced them all. "I'll see you on the plane." And with that, I walked away, straight toward the business class counter. I could feel every eye on me as I walked away from my family. The sting on my cheek was nothing compared to the rush in my veins. For the first time in years, I wasn't just swallowing their insults. I was walking away. The business class counter was lit differently. Calmer, quieter, no chaos like the economy line. The attendant smiled warmly. "Good afternoon, sir. May I see your ticket?" I slid it over, and her polite smile widened. "Ah, business class. You're all set. Would you like a lounge pass while you wait for boarding?" The words were like honey after the bitterness I had just swallowed. "Yes," I said, glancing back at the scene unfolding behind me. Because while I stood in a calm, efficient line, my family was unraveling. Dad was red in the face, barking at Layla to stop crying. Mom was frantically looking around, as if the gossiping crowd might swallow her whole. And Layla? She was still demanding I come back and play the servant. The attendant leaned closer. "Is everything okay, sir?" I smirked. "It's perfect now." She handed me my lounge pass and whispered, "Enjoy your flight." The lounge was another world. Plush chairs, soft lighting, the smell of coffee and fresh pastries. Travelers in suits scrolled through tablets, sipping champagne like it was water. I sank into a leather chair, feeling the tension melt from my shoulders. But the best part? The lounge overlooked the main terminal. Through the glass, I could see them, my family, still struggling with a mountain of bags. Dad was dragging one suitcase while Mom scolded Layla for overpacking. Layla kept pointing toward me, her mouth moving like she was cursing my very existence. I sipped my coffee, watching them like it was the best reality show I'd ever seen. 4 years, I had carried their weight. Not just their bags, but their expectations, their insults, their dismissals. I was the useless son, the one who never measured up. But now, they were drowning without me. And then came the boarding call. Business class passengers for Flight 108. You may now board. I stood, straightened my jacket, and walked with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was worth. The staff greeted me with a smile as I handed over my pass. Just as I stepped onto the jet bridge, I heard it, Dad's booming voice. Wait. He's with us. I didn't even look back. The attendant scanned my ticket and said, Sir, you're all set. Welcome aboard. I stepped inside the aircraft, and the contrast was staggering. Wide leather seats, champagne already waiting, flight attendants calling me by name. I sank into my seat, stretching my legs with a sigh. Meanwhile, out in the economy section, my family would be crammed together, fighting over armrests and overhead bin space. But the drama wasn't over. Because as I sipped my champagne, I spotted a man in a tailored suit sitting across from me. He glanced up, gave me a nod and said, Quite the scene back there. Family. I froze. He had seen everything. And the way he smiled told me this stranger wasn't just a fellow passenger. He was about to change everything. The champagne flute was cool in my hand, but my heart raced hotter with every sip. The stranger across from me studied me with calm curiosity. His suit wasn't just expensive. It was tailored perfection. The kind of man who didn't fly for vacations but for deals worth millions. Family can be complicated, he said smoothly, almost like he was testing me. I chuckled dryly. That's one word for it. He tilted his glass toward me. You handled it better than most would. Walking away like that takes guts. I raised an eyebrow. Most would call it selfish. Not me, he replied, his tone sharp. Most people waste their lives dragging baggage that doesn't belong to them. Literally and figuratively. The words hit me harder than my father's slap. He wasn't just talking about suitcases. He was talking about my life. Before I could respond, a flight attendant leaned down beside me. Sir, your family is requesting to sit with you in business class. Would you like to approve the upgrade? The blood drained from my face. Of course. Dad must have swallowed his pride the second he realized economy wasn't exactly paradise. He thought I'd give in, again like always. I didn't even hesitate. No, I said firmly. Decline it. The attendant nodded and walked away, heels clicking down the aisle. I caught a glimpse through the curtain as she delivered the news. Layla's face twisted in rage, Mom gasped dramatically, and Dad clenched his fists like he was seconds from exploding. The passengers around them were whispering again, smirking at their downfall. And for once, I didn't feel like the family embarrassment. I felt like the one holding the power. The stranger smirked. I like your style. Name's Donovan. He extended his hand. I shook it, though my curiosity buzzed louder than the plane's engines. Nice to meet you. He leaned closer. You ever think about why your family treats you like that? I frowned. Because to them, I'll never be enough. Donovan studied me for a moment, then said something that sent a chill through me. Or maybe, because you've never shown them how powerful you really are. I stared at him. Who was this man? The seatbelt sign dinged on as the plane taxied down the runway. My family sat just a few rows back, their angry voices muffled by the curtains separating business from economy. The engines roared, but inside me, something else was roaring louder, a storm I had buried for years. I had always been the one humiliated, the one treated like a servant. But this time I wasn't just going to upgrade my seat. I was going to upgrade my life. And I had a feeling Donovan was about to show me how. The plane soared above the clouds, but my mind wasn't at peace. I could still hear faint arguments bleeding through the curtains separating business and economy. My mother's sharp tone. Layla's whining. Dad's bark. Even up here, their chaos clung to me like smoke. Donovan, on the other hand, seemed unbothered. He sipped his whiskey and leaned back, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle. "You've got something rare," he finally said. I frowned. "Rare?" "I've got a father who slapped me in public and a sister who treats me like a servant." He smirked. "Exactly. Most people would have folded under that slap. But you didn't. You walked away. That's leverage most people never find." Leverage. The word hung in the air like static. Before I could respond, the flight attendant returned, crouching beside me. "Sir, I apologize. Your father insists he needs to speak with you. He says it's urgent." I felt every passenger's eyes on me. The humiliation threatened to resurface, but this time I wasn't about to let them win. I straightened my posture. "Tell him I'll speak to him after we land." Her eyes widened slightly, then she nodded and disappeared. The muffled voices behind the curtain grew louder, Dad demanding, Mom scolding, Layla practically wailing. Passengers chuckled. A few even clapped, enjoying the drama. My family's downfall had become in-flight entertainment. Donovan leaned in, his voice low. "See? Without you, they're nothing but noise. But you just proved you can control the narrative." I swallowed. "And what? You think I should rub it in their faces?" He shook his head. "No. Don't waste your energy on them. Upgrade more than your seat. Upgrade your life. You're sitting in a room full of opportunities, but you've been chained to people who don't value you. Break the chain." The words hit harder than the slap ever could. For the first time, I saw my situation clearly. My father's control, my sister's entitlement, my mother's obsession with appearances. And here I was, free, finally tasting independence. The plane shuddered as turbulence rocked us, cups rattling. Passengers gasped. I gripped the armrest, but Donovan stayed calm, eyes locked on mine. "Storms test foundations," he said softly. "Let's see what yours is made of." I exhaled slowly, a fire sparking in my chest. For once, I wasn't afraid of the turbulence. Not in the air. Not in my life. Because this was just the beginning. The seatbelt sign blinked off, and I finally pulled out my phone. Dozens of notifications lit the screen. Texts from Mom, Dad, and Layla. "Dad, you embarrassed us in front of everyone. When we land, we're having a serious talk." "Mom, stop this stubborn act. You're making a fool of yourself." "Layla, hope you enjoy your champagne. Economy smells like feet because of you." I almost laughed. Even at 30,000 feet, their control reached for me. But the messages didn't sting like they used to. Not anymore. Donovan glanced at my screen, smirking. "Let me guess, they're still trying to drag you back down." I locked the phone. "Always." He leaned closer. "Then stop answering. Don't give them the power. Do something for yourself, for once." I looked around the cabin. Calm faces, flight attendants serving gourmet meals, the world outside painted in endless clouds. For once, I wasn't the servant. I wasn't invisible. I was seen. Through the curtain, I heard Layla yelling about her cramped seat. A man's laugh followed, mocking her tantrum. My family wasn't admired anymore. They were pitted, ridiculed. For the first time, it wasn't me bearing the shame. It was them. I turned back to Donovan. "Maybe you're right. Maybe this is my moment to cut the chain." He raised his glass. "Then here's to upgrades, the kind no one can take from you." We clinked glasses, and I realized something. This flight wasn't just carrying me to a destination. It was carrying me away from the life I no longer wanted. The wheels screeched as the plane touched down, jolting me back to reality. My heart pounded, not from fear, but anticipation. I knew what was waiting beyond that curtain. My family, simmering with rage, ready to unleash. Passengers began standing, pulling bags from the overhead bins. The curtain separating business and economy finally swept aside. And there they were. My parents and Layla, their faces flushed from hours of stewing. Dad's eyes locked on me like a predator. "We're talking. Now." His voice cut through the cabin, heads turning instantly. The flight attendant stepped between us, calm but firm. "Sir, please wait until the aisle clears." But Layla wasn't about to wait. She shoved past the attendant and hissed in my ear. You think you're better than us now? Sitting up here, drinking champagne? You're nothing without Dad. I didn't flinch. I simply stood, collected my carry-on, and turned to her with a calm smile. Funny. Because I did just fine without carrying your bags. Passengers chuckled. Someone even muttered, good for him. Layla's face turned crimson. Dad took a step forward, ready to explode, but Donovan suddenly rose beside me, his presence towering. Is there a problem here? His voice was calm, but it carried authority that silenced the entire cabin. My father faltered, caught off guard. For once, his dominance didn't fill the room. I looked him in the eye. The only problem is thinking I'll ever be your servant again. Silence. The kind of silence that burns. As we filed out into the terminal, I realized something had shifted. The slap at the airport had been their attempt to keep me small. But now, they couldn't shrink me anymore. This was my upgrade, my freedom. The terminal buzzed with chaos as passengers spilled out, but for me, time slowed. My family trailed behind like storm clouds, their whispers sharp, their anger heavy. Dad barked my name, his voice echoing across the polished floor. Stop right there. You think one fancy seat makes you a man? You'll crawl back like always. I froze. Not from fear, but because, for the first time, I wanted him to say it all. To expose the truth in front of everyone. Dozens of travelers slowed their steps, watching the scene unfold. Phones lifted. Screens glowed. My family drama was once again center stage. Layla sneered, clutching her designer purse. Go ahead, Dad. Show him where he belongs. And then, Donovan stepped forward, calm as ever, a predator in a suit. Belongs. His voice carried like steel. Funny choice of words. Dad glared at him. Who are you? Donovan smirked. The man who watched you humiliate your own son in public. The man who saw him rise above it while you sank lower. And let me tell you something. Out here respect is earned, not demanded. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My father's face twisted, but he said nothing. For once, he had no script, no authority. Just silence. I took a step forward, my voice steady. Dad, Mom, Layla. You spent years treating me like dead weight. But here's the truth. You need me more than I'll ever need you. Without me, you're just noise. Layla scoffed, but her eyes flickered with doubt. Mom reached for Dad's arm, as if even she sensed his power slipping. I slung my bag over my shoulder and turned toward the exit. My chest felt lighter, my steps stronger. For the first time, I wasn't running from them. I was leaving them behind. Donovan's voice followed, low and approving. Good choice. Upgrades aren't just seats. They're decisions. As I walked out into the sunlight, my phone buzzed with another message from Dad. You'll regret this. I smiled to myself and deleted it. Because the truth was simple. I had already upgraded. Not just my ticket, but my entire life.